chapter 14 and verses 6 and 7. Then I saw another angel flying in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to preach to those who dwell on the earth, to every nation, tribe, tongue, and people, saying with a loud voice, "Fear God, and give glory to Him, for the hour of His judgment has come. And worship Him who made heaven and earth, the sea, and the springs of water." This is the third imperative in the first angel's message that we're going to take a look at in our study today. First imperative is fear God. The second imperative is give glory to Him. And the third, of course, is worship Him who made the heaven, earth, the sea, and the springs of water. Now, the first thing that we want to ask is, who was this Creator that is mentioned in the first angel's message? Well, go with me to Colossians chapter 1, and we'll read verses 15 through 17. Colossians chapter 1 and verses 15 through 17. Here it's speaking about Jesus Christ. And notice what it says. He is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. For by Him, that is by Jesus, all things were created, that are in heaven and that are on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. All things were created through Him and for Him. And He is before all things, and in Him all things consist. Now that expression, "in Him all things consist," means that He holds creation together. In Him all things hold together. That's the way that it's translated, for example, in the New International Version. And so the Bible is very clear that the Creator who is mentioned in the first angel's message was none other than Jesus Christ Himself. But now we must ask the question, why does Jesus command us to worship Him? Notice Psalm 95 and verse 6. Here is the motivation or the reason why Jesus calls upon us to worship Him. It says in Psalm 95, verse 6, "O come, let us worship and bow down. Let us kneel before the Lord, our Maker." So the motivation for worship is the fact that He is the Creator and we are His creatures. Worship is due from us because we were created by Jesus Christ. Let's notice one other verse that speaks about the motivation for worship. Nehemiah chapter 9 and verse 6. Nehemiah 9 and verse 6. Here, Nehemiah, inspired by the Holy Spirit, says, "You alone are the Lord. You have made heaven, the heaven of heavens, with all their host, the earth and everything on it, the seas and all that is in them, and you preserve them all." Notice the similar idea to Colossians chapter 1. He's also the preserver, or the one who holds everything together. And now notice how verse 6 ends. The host of heaven, what? The host of heaven worships you. So what is the motivation for worship? The fact that God alone is the Lord, and He made the heavens and everything that is in them. Now, in order to understand the first angel's message then, we have to go back to the story of creation. Because the first angel's message says the reason why you're supposed to worship Jesus or worship God is because He's the Creator. So the first angel's message obviously sends us back to Genesis, to the story of creation. In other words, we cannot understand the first angel's message without going back to Genesis chapter 1 and also chapter 2. So let's go back there to Genesis chapter 1 and verse 31, and we'll read through chapter 2 and verse 1. I want you to notice several interesting details here. It says, then God saw everything that He had made. Who had made? God. Who specifically? Jesus. Then God saw everything that He had made, and indeed it was very good. So the evening and the morning were the sixth day. Thus the heavens and the earth and all the host of them were what? Finished. I want you to remember that word. Finished. Let me ask you, what day did Jesus finish His work of creation? He finished the sixth day. The word finished is used. Who did all of the work the first 6 days? Jesus did all of the work. Did human beings do any of the work? Did Adam and Eve do any of the work? Absolutely not. It says clearly, then God saw everything that He had made, and then it says that He finished the sixth day, saw that it was good, and His works were finished. But now we need to talk about the day after the sixth day. Let's talk about the seventh day. Go with me to Genesis chapter 2 and verses 2 and 3. Genesis chapter 2 and verses 2 and 3. And I want us to notice several interesting things in these two verses. And on the seventh day, God ended His work which He had done. And He rested on the seventh day from all His work which He had done. Then God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because in it He rested from all His work which God had created and made. Now here's my question. Once again, this passage tells us that who did all of the work? Jesus did all of the work. God did all of the work. It's repeated time and again. It says on the seventh day God ended His work which He had done. He rested. Then God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because in it He rested from all His work which God had created and made. In other words, once again, it's repeated that the person who created everything during the first 6 days was whom? Was God, or as we read at the beginning of our presentation, Jesus Christ. But now I want you to notice another very interesting detail in this passage of Genesis 2 verses 2 and 3. Let's go once again and read the passage, and I'm going to underline two key words. It says, and on the seventh day, God ended His work which He had done, and He rested, notice, He rested on the seventh day from all His work which He had done, and don't miss this next word. Then God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it. When did God bless and sanctify the seventh day? It was after He what? After He rested. In other words, what made the Sabbath holy? The fact that God or Jesus what? Rested on the Sabbath. And in case you didn't get it from where it says, then, after He rested, then God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, we're told again, because in it He rested from all His work which God had created and made. In other words, Jesus did all of the work the first 6 days, and then Jesus rested the seventh day, and when the seventh day ended, Jesus blessed the seventh day, and He sanctified the seventh day. Now we need to ask the question, what did Jesus do on the seventh day? You know, for a long time, I had an enigma in my mind about the book of Genesis, particularly about the seventh day. You know, you read the story of creation and God's rest on the seventh day, and it never says in the creation story that Jesus told Adam and Eve to keep the Sabbath. And I always wondered about that. There are other places in the Bible that show that the Sabbath originally was made for man. Nevertheless, I always wondered why in the Genesis account it doesn't say God told Adam and Eve to keep the Sabbath. Now, I want you to put that enigma on hold because we're going to come back to it. I want to go to another verse now that corroborates the idea that we just noted in Genesis, where it says that Jesus rested, or God rested, And after he rested the whole day, then he blessed and sanctified the day. Let's go to the fourth commandment of God's holy law. And by the way, the first angel's message is referring to, with its language, to Exodus chapter 20, the fourth commandment. By the way, what I'm going to read was spoken by God's own voice, and it was written by his own finger on tables of stone. So we must listen. It says in Exodus 20, verse 8, "Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Jews." No, it says, "But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God." We're going to notice the reason why. "In it you shall do no work. You, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates. For," now comes the reason. Why are we supposed to work 6 days and rest the seventh? "For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them," and don't miss this now, "and rested the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it," or made it holy. Is this very clear? That God or Jesus rested the seventh day, and then Jesus blessed the seventh day and made it holy? Yes or no? Absolutely. So this first week of the history of the world is what I call God's week, or Jesus' week. You see, it's God's week before it becomes man's week. Because God is the one who worked 6, and God is the one who rested on the seventh day. In other words, the first week is all about God. The first week does not deal primarily with man. In other words, God, among other things, created the week by working 6 days and by resting on the seventh day. You know, as I studied this out, I discovered the reason why God did not command Adam and Eve to keep that first Sabbath holy. You say, well, what is the reason? Listen, folks, we just noted in Scripture that the day did not become holy until it was over. Jesus didn't make the Sabbath holy until the day ended. So how could he tell Adam and Eve when the Sabbath was beginning, keep the Sabbath holy, if it wasn't holy yet? Furthermore, how could God tell Adam and Eve, keep the Sabbath and follow my example, if God or Jesus had not first given the example? Furthermore, and this is a very important point, the Sabbath that God commanded man to keep was not the first Sabbath of human history, but starting with the second Sabbath of human history. And you say, how is that? This might be new to you. Even if you're a Seventh-day Adventist, it might be new to you. But it's biblical, and it's powerful, and it explains why God did not command Adam and Eve to keep that first Sabbath, but rather the second Sabbath. What does the fourth commandment say? The fourth commandment makes the Sabbath a creation ordinance, because it sends you back to creation. It explains that you keep the Sabbath because of creation. Now, it's very interesting that God says in the fourth commandment to man, work 6 and what? Rest on the seventh. Now, here's my question. When that first Sabbath came, had man worked 6 days? He had not worked 6 days. So, could he keep the commandment technically that says, work 6 and rest the seventh? No. Jesus worked 6, he rested the seventh, and then the fourth commandment says that he told Adam and Eve and all of their descendants, now as you saw me work 6 and rest on the seventh, you work 6 and you rest the next seventh day. So after Jesus made the Sabbath holy, after Jesus gave the example, then he gives the fourth commandment, which says, keep the Sabbath day holy, because now, after I rested, the Sabbath is holy. So let me ask you, whose day is the Sabbath? The Sabbath is the day of whom? Of Jesus, before it is the day of man. The week was created by Jesus, and then the week was given to man after it was created by Jesus. So as soon as the first week ended, Jesus says to man, now you're going to work 6, and the next 7th day, you're going to come, and we're going to keep the Sabbath the way you saw me keep this first Sabbath. And in this way, from then on, you are going to remember that I am the Creator. The Sabbath will be the sign that I am the Creator. And you will remember it from then on. Incidentally, that's the reason why the 4th commandment begins by saying, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. In fact, the Bible tells us that the Sabbath is a sign between God and